Think is science is merely a religion too. And that's what I want to explain today. If I had my way, I don't care about a religious exemption or a philosophical exemption. I'm looking for a state to pass a scientific exemption. Because I'm demanding that science take place immediately. You have all been hoodwinked. This is not science that we're up against right now. This is a religion that should be called scientism, based on faith and assumptions and dreams and hopes and ambitions and finances. But it's not based in reality. And it certainly has never tested itself, which makes it another religion. And so, as you try to say your science as a governor or a mayor or a president or whatever you are, your science trumps my religion, I say, no. Your science does not trump my God. Your religion of science does not take away the need for testing and understanding and proof. And since you can provide no proof, because I've looked for it for the last 5 years, it's been my #1 study. Vaccines and one word, safety. It does not exist. So let me make this clear. I've been traveling the country. How many people have seen Vax? Just so I have a sense of how many of you are out there. Thank you very much. So Vax changed my life. Put me out in front of the cameras and on microphones like this all around the world. And I'm not psychic. I'm not a seer. I'm a researcher. I'm an investigator. And from that position, I have been saying for the last 3 years, and very, very loudly for the last year, the pharmaceutical industry is going to attempt to take over every government in the world. And audience sat there and thought at times, well, that sounds really dramatic, but I guess he's dramatic. But I said, you know that the most powerful lobby in Washington is pharma? It's outspending oil and gas 2-1. We fight wars in the Middle East for oil and gas. What do you think pharma is buying when they're spending twice as much to put your governor in office, to put your senator in office, to put your congressman in office? What are they buying? I don't see a war. I don't know what they're looking for. But I saw that funding going into every government agency in the world. And then lo and behold, surprise, surprise, a virus that we use to make everybody so afraid that we must now put every single government in the world in the hands of the health department. That's what just happened, right? Every president, every prime minister, even dictators have stepped aside to put doctors in charge. How do you like it? How do you like this world? How's it turning out? Not so good, right? As it turns out, doctors are really bad at running nations. So let's look at how this happened. I know those of you are out there and You know, you're not wearing your mask right now, but you'll go back to it. In the back of your head, you're thinking to yourselves, but Del, people have died. You know? I lost my YouTube channel for saying things like, this is a bad cold, folks. It's another flu. It's always been here. We've been saying it for months. But let me just explain very quickly for those of you that don't watch The High Wire, would you like to know how you take a common cold and destroy the world and get away with it? I'll tell you how this happened. It's really simple. So, a coronavirus is a cold. We've called it a cold. There's rhinovirus and a couple other things we'll call a cold. Now, who remembers them saying there's no such thing as a cure for the common cold? Weird, right? But now all of a sudden, in 6 months, we're going to suddenly come up with a cure for the common cold. And wait, we just need you to destroy your lives until we get to that point. That's right, we're waiting for the vaccine unicorn is what I call it. Have you ever seen more reporting on an imaginary product and the idea, like governors, people say we are going to mandate this product that does not exist on this planet as we speak right now? It's absolutely insane. But here it is. Very quickly, here is how you create a pandemic with a cold. Here's how you get 170,000 deaths in the United States of America. And here's how you make everybody denounce their God on Easter, on Passover, on Ramadan, all of which took place. So, for those of you that don't recognize, the coronavirus has been in America since at least we know beginning of January, late December, maybe even earlier, but not a single agency in this country will test blood banks before December because they're terrified of what they might find.
Running for governor, he's against
if we find out that this virus was here before we saw people falling over in China, the entire story ends. You recognize that? This story is over. So let's just take what we've been told and their word for it. In December, a virus got here. It is, as they say, one of the most infectious illnesses we've ever seen. Many reports 50 to 80 times more infectious than we even realized when we were being really paranoid about it. And it swept the country, okay, by the millions. But when you look at every graph, as I've shown you on the High Wire, there is no uptick in deaths in December, no uptick in January or February, but not until the end of March, suddenly, all of a sudden, boom, people start dying. And I ask myself, what happened at the end of March that suddenly COVID broke loose and started wiping out people, especially in New York? In fact, let's use New York as how you kill people with a cold. Here it goes. Here it goes. First of all, you have to say that this is not a normal cold virus, that it is deadly. It is a deadly virus and it's novel. I'm going to give you guys all a little bit of a lesson for those of you who haven't thought about it. Novel meaning our bodies have never come in contact with this type of virus before, which means everyone on the planet is susceptible and everyone on the planet is dangerous. You with me? It's a novel coronavirus, okay? It's not a regular coronavirus because your bodies would already mostly be immune. Many of you, probably 70, 80%, would already be immune if this is just another cold. But no, this is a novel, brand new virus. And it's deadly. It's deadlier than we've ever seen. Based on what? No data. Based on models from universities being funded by the pharmaceutical industry. Based on those models, 500,000 people are going to die in the UK, and 2 million people are going to die in the United States of America. And so we start screaming, and specifically, Andrew Cuomo starts screaming, ventilators, ventilators, I need more ventilators. We've got to get more ventilators. I don't have enough ventilators. How many people remember how badly we need ventilators? Okay? Well, as it turns out, ventilators kill 9 out of 10 people with coronavirus that are put on it. So we'll look back in history. First of all, and we'll replace that word in our minds and say, guillotines, guillotines, I need more guillotines to treat the coronavirus, because that's what happened. We murdered 90% of the people that had this cold with ventilators. Now, why were they on a ventilator? Because remember, it's a deadly virus, right? It's novel. So because of that, we changed the protocol we've used since the dawn of man to treat colds, which is, oh, you're feeling short of breath? Let's give you some oxygen. Let's lay you in one of the thousands of beds we have here in this hospital, and we're just going to give you some oxygen and maybe an antiviral, or if you're lucky and your doctor has a brain, how about some vitamin C, some vitamin D? Let's boost up your immune system. But, you see, because it's deadly and it's a novel virus, and we have a vaccine to force on you, we can't give you oxygen. You know why? Because oxygen aerosolizes the deadly virus. And it'll spread all over our hospital. So we're not going to give you the oxygen we gave you every year before this. Woo! No, we're going to stare at you, deny you all treatment, deny you oxygen, and this is by doctors' own mouths and nurses' own mouths until you crash. And then when you crash, we are going to put you into a coma using drugs like propofol that killed Michael Jackson. And we're going to ram this ventilator into your face and a tube down your throat and kill you. Fact. These are facts. This is what actually happened. Now, what about the beds? Oh, wait, we're going to run out of beds. You know what we had to do? Because we can't use oxygen, and because we assume this deadly virus is what everybody has, whether you've had a car accident or a heart attack, or for whatever reason you're coming to the hospital, we assume it's deadly COVID. Therefore, you can only go into our ICU, because our ICU beds are the only ones with ventilators. So what do? Do you know how big your ICU is in your hospital? If you're lucky, it's half. For most, it's a third, and for even more, about 10% the size of the hospital, the amount of beds are in your ICU. So we cut off half the hospital. No one can use it. We literally cut our beds in half across the country, especially in New York. You see how this works? We're taking a cold, we're making it deadly, we're denying you every treatment we've ever used, and then we have cut our beds in half. And you can watch Andrew Cuomo, who I believe will be tried for crimes against humanity when this is all over. But it gets even better. I mean, look how stupid this is. So now I have half the amount of beds. Now I really got to get panicked. And because I have so few beds, guess what? We can't allow old people to take up those beds because we have young people that are more important. And for everybody wearing a mask and listening to this lie thinking you're saving the elderly, we are murdering them across this country. Andrew Cuomo says, as soon as an elderly person is diagnosed with COVID-19, and I don't even care if they got a study, if you just assume that's what it is, they have to go back to their nursing homes. You've got to free up that bed because we only have the amount of beds that are in the ICU. So what does he do? He writes a law. And so did about 5 other Democratic governors across the country. Writes a law that the nursing home can't turn away these elderly that are sick with COVID-19. They have to take them into the nursing home. What? Andrew, if there's one thing that was true about this virus, even though it's a cold, it does have a very specific acute reaction in people that are over the age of 65 suffering from serious other illnesses, be it COPD, heart disease, diabetes, things that have them on their deathbed anyway. I'm not saying, they were mostly, as been described, probably going to die this year anyway, but we certainly accelerated it. But Andrew Cuomo and our government, because of the fear, because of the novelty, because of the danger, we murdered elderly throughout the nursing home system. We forced them into the one place we knew they shouldn't be. The one place. If we were going to lock down anything in this country, it should have been our retirement communities and our nursing homes. How hard is that? That's what we should have done. Because for the rest of us, the death rate of this thing is almost completely non-existent. So we rushed the nursing homes. I think there's over 10,000 dead in New York and counting as we try to get to the truth of it. But even worse, because it's so deadly, and we now have a nurse's testimony and a hidden camera. If you haven't seen it, Nurse Erin went in with a camera on. She said, we are killing people because we're not resuscitating them. We have do not resuscitate orders. Again, because there's not enough beds, because we cut our hospitals in half, nobody can be revived. And so we took 35-year-old people, 40-year-old people, 50-year-old people, even though nurses are screaming out for their lives, saying we must revive this person. Their parents said and their families said, do everything you can to save them. And we have doctors on camera saying, I'm sorry, for this illness, that is not the protocol. We have do not resuscitate orders across the country. I'm only talking about the mistakes in the hospitals. Now, how many people died of heart attacks? Fire departments talking about the fact that we're just showing up and people are dead. Oh, and by the way, if you have a heart attack and the ambulance gets to you, they're not allowed to resuscitate you either because we don't want you in the hospital. We don't have enough beds. This is what is happening in the United States of America to scare you. That your God is coming up short. You have human beings murdering people in hospitals. So I'm sorry. And to all of you frontline workers and nurses and doctors, I want to say this. I am not proud of you at all. I'm not. Where are you? Why aren't you stepping up for the truth? Why aren't you asking yourselves, and this is the last way we kill people, when we have 65 international studies, hundreds and hundreds of doctors using hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and zinc with a 98% success rate, recovery rate. Any doctor and any nurse that is allowing anyone to tell you to not give that to your patients, then I am not proud of you. You should be ashamed of yourself. We believed in you. You were supposed to be critical thinkers. You were supposed to say, you know what? 9 out of the last 10 people I put on a ventilator died. I think I might be killing people here. Like Dr. Kyle Seidel that stepped up in New York City and went on YouTube, a Paul Revere in the middle of this and said, we're killing people. We're treating this all the wrong way. You even have Ford Medical Center now, one of the greatest research hospitals in this nation, looked at thousands of patients across 6 different hospitals, and they said, if you got hydroxychloroquine upon being diagnosed, not once you were on a ventilator, then you had half the death rate. Half. So that means that we shouldn't be at 170,000 deaths. At the very worst, we should be at about 85,000 deaths, which was 2018's flu death rate in America. I want to remind you, I don't care what your politics are, but the President of the United States in, I think it was early April, said, I like this drug, hydroxychloroquine. 187 people had died so far in the United States of America. But we allowed a drug that has been proven safe for 65 years, given to people for everything from lupus to malaria, pregnant and nursing. It is one of the safest drugs the world has ever seen. We let that be politicized. We let them force us into our basements and wear masks while they denied treatment to people that needed it. And even after Ford Medical Center said, we could have cut these deaths in half, we can cut them in half now, Tony Fauci said, no, I'm gonna stop this. The only way we can protect ourselves is with a vaccine unicorn. And believe me, we have everybody hunting for that right now. So my investigation kept asking, why would they be against a pharmaceutical product as safe as hydroxychloroquine when people, as they say, are dying? But then we found in the FDA's own website the emergency use law around vaccination. And in order to rush a vaccine onto the market without proper safety studies with placebos that last long enough so that you can see if they cause long-term autoimmune disease, the #1 problem with vaccines, which means these trials have got to at least be 3 years long. In order to short-circuit that, the FDA has some rules. Number 4 in those rules is there can be no treatment available. That's the only way they can force vaccinate you. It's the only way they can skip the length of the safety trials that we know they should be doing, is by making sure there's no other treatment available. So any doctor, like the 12 that stood in front of Washington, D.C., America's frontline doctors, how many saw their video? Thousands of patients and having amazing success. We have a treatment. We have a cure. This pandemic is over. Our kids don't need to be masked. They can go back to school. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, 17 million views in 6 hours, and then lights out. Lights out. We can't allow licensed doctors to give firsthand accounts of how they treated their own patients. That is now illegal in the United States of America because we are working hard to murder people with a cold. I'm not mincing words here. If it's the last thing I do, Tony Fauci will go to prison for murdering hydroxychloroquine and taking it yourself. I couldn't believe when I watched the news saying, how could he do something so reckless as take hydroxychloroquine and make everybody think it works? What are you talking about? Our general just walked out in front of his troops into the front of the war and said, this is how I'm going to fight it. None of us were in church on Easter. Our spiritual leaders are under pressure by our health departments. Do us a favor. Make this about your God. Woo! Make this about your belief. Make this about your faith. So, I want to say this. You were created in the image and likeness of God. Not your minister, not your pastor. They were, but not for you. They're not your God. Your God created you. Your God speaks to you. And as mothers, when you sat there about to inject your child with a vaccine, you felt God speaking to you. Some of you listened, some didn't. It's not your fault, because we all have been victims of this new religion, this sick, twisted mindset that has us believing that God failed us, that we were not created perfectly, that we are pharma, medicine, that advertising power that owns your television and constantly preaches to you more than your church, more than your Bible, more than anything else does. It is winning over your minds, and you must stop it now. You must stop it, brothers and sisters, now. God needs you now. Satan, however you see it, the dark forces are liars. They will be called out in their time. So how about this? How about those that told us our God had failed us, that we needed to lock ourselves down because 2 million people were going to die in the United States of America? Only one problem. You liars were dead wrong. We did not have a 10% death rate, or a 5% death rate, or a 3% death rate, or a 2% death rate, or a 1% death rate, or a 0.50% death rate, 0.26%. CDC numbers. The imperial model died. The liars lost. But their religion didn't stop. They kicked their faith. They kicked their preachers. They kicked their lab coats into high gear to press harder than ever to make you believe in them over your true God. So here we are, running headlong at warp speed towards a vaccine that killed virtually every animal in the animal trials for the last 20 years. A complete and total failure. We are working on RNA vaccines. This is a God vaccine, folks. Do you understand what this is? Your beautiful immune system has DNA created by perfection that sends messages through your body to heal itself. Think God can heal himself? Do you think when you say you were created in the image and likeness of God, that God somehow left that part out? No! Your DNA sends messages out to your cells. We have a virus or a bacteria that is attempting to come into this temple, destroy it. And it does. These mRNA vaccines that Tony Fauci's NIH has patents in, that our own government officials will make millions from, is sending an artificial message into the bodies of the people that get it. It's a message that is telling the body, this came from your DNA. This came from your God-created healing center, and it is telling the cells what to do. Except God didn't make that message, and neither did your DNA. A laboratory that stands to make $750 billion if they win this contract. That's who wrote this message. That is now traveling and asking your cells to mutate over and over and over again. This is the most dangerous moment we have ever faced on this planet. Remember, at least in my Bible, God said, I have created everything here perfect for you. I have given you Eden. This is all yours. The plants and the animals, which so many of you in Utah appreciate, and you create some of the most beautiful food that those of us are lucky enough to have experience. You know what this means. I've given it all to you. One simple rule. There is a tree in the middle of this garden. Is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Eat from that tree, and you will surely die. Story didn't make a lot of sense as I was growing up, but it makes a lot of sense now. I think that tree is arrogance. That tree is thirst for power. That tree is what Bill Gates sucks on every day of his life, believing that he is smarter than God.
Woo!
That tree is what Tony Fauci bows down to every single day of his life. That I know better than God, and I'm the only one that can heal your kids. And I don't care how many die by accident. I don't care how many times we admit to you we are trying to reduce the population of the world. You will bow down to us because this tree is our master. That tree is the most powerful God that is attempting to write off yours. And your governor, and your senators, and your congressmen believe in that tree more than the God that put it there. But they left one critical piece of their divine plan out. You. They forgot about you. And believe me, their drones overhead are seeing you right now, and they are terrified. They are terrified because we are not listening any longer. And I don't care if you're a church, a synagogue, or a temple. We are not listening if you are telling us our God has failed us, because we have the greatest God there is. Money-grubbing liars and crooks. We are depending on our faith, on our love, and the plain and simple data that we have a 99.74% chance of doing just fine. Because God never forgot about us. And if these crooks and liars actually allowed us access to the treatments that God inspired good doctors to create, we would have no death rate at all. So you have a decision to make. How do we step forward tomorrow? Are you really going to send your children to a school with a mask on? Are you really going to let your children be raised in a world that says, honey, God made a mistake and this air we're breathing is deadly? No! Are we going to fire principals, health department leaders, governors, church leaders? You are done if you forget who we are and how great this earth is. We are not property of the United States government. And that's what this simply comes down to. You see, our Constitution admired and respected and appreciated and spoke about the power of our natural God and those things that were given us that no man, no government can take away. You must not let them take it away, or we have forgotten what our founding fathers dreamt about, what they sought to create, what they handed us. We have so much on our side. About 2 months ago, 76% of America said that they would get a COVID-19 vaccine. 2 weeks ago, 42% said they would get a COVID-19. There's a reason why I'm being censored, folks. There's a reason why Bobby Kennedy's being censored. There's a reason why Twitter won't let Donald Trump tell you the truth, because they can't handle the truth. We are powerful. We are our bodies that we do not approve. This is my body. This is my blood. These are my children, and we are the sons and daughters of the Almighty God. You do not own us. You do not control us. And we are going to stand for what really matters. Love, perfection, Eden, God, life. Nothing stops us because today we remembered that we are ordained by God to make this world a beautiful, loving, and respectful place.
We love you!
Together,
Thank you!
we have a spiritual mission. It is going to cross the barriers of Christianity, of Judaism, of Islam. The one true God is speaking to us all now. And he's saying, rise. Rise now for the truth. Rise now to your